This is Rennie Knopf with ChampionshipBBQ.tv, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Yay! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike your match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right, good evening and welcome to the really big Barbecue Central Show. Let's see if I remember how to do this. This is the show that talks about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. This show originating as it has for years and decades from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire, fun, and frivolity show. If you would like to get in contact with the show this evening, or if you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter coming up in about 12 minutes from now. A brand new month, a first Tuesday of that brand new month. And of course, that brings a visit from our pal, the pitmaster of Killer Hogs, creator of How to Barbecue Right, Malcom Reed. Off last month, back for January, and we are going to go headlong into the Bison hunt of 2024 and subsequent recap here in January of 2025 with Malcom Reed. No stone or bison question will be left unturned. You will get all of the insight. I will ask all of the most important questions that one needs to ask when somebody goes on a bison hunt, and we will all be armed with information to go further tomorrow to have conversations the likes that we thought maybe we would never have had. But it's all right here in the next 10 minutes. After Malcom Reed, we'll welcome a first-time guest. He is the Executive Vice President of Memphis in May. It is Kevin Grothe. Mysteriously unavailable last year as all the noise was being generated by first-time contest Smoke Slam well before the year turned and then well into the year turning into 2024. There was all of this smoke slam, that, new information being dropped this week, next week, new information being dropped. All the while, I'm feverishly reaching back out to Memphis in May saying, hey, would you like to come on? Would you like to talk about this? Would you like to talk about that? Nothing in between. Very little information aside from we will reach out when we have a comment on X or Y, which never came. And then a few weeks ago, wouldn't you know, in comes an email, says, hey, we're ready to rock and roll in 2025. Would you like to have somebody on? I am, of course, always looking for brand new guests, especially at esteemed contests and revered contests like Memphis in May. And lucky enough, we were able to put Kevin Grothe on the show here this evening. So we'll talk about what 2025 looks like from a competition sense. We can look like from a spectator sense. We'll also talk a little bit about what's transpired here over the last couple of years. So looking forward to meeting and talking with Kevin as we round out the first hour. Then we'll move to the second hour, where we will find the second Tuesday of the month. The second hour, first Tuesday of the month regular guest First time in 2025, Sam the cooking guy. Sam also missed last month. He was on vacation, I believe, either in Mexico or Hawaii, and I want to say it was Hawaii, but I can't be sure. Not sure if it was Hawaii, if he was able to chase down barbecue realtor to the stars, Lance Owens. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it was Mexico. I don't know. We'll see what Sam was up to last month. We'll talk about what's going on in 2025. We'll talk about his recently passed Pooch Lewis, which is terrible news. Lewis, one of my favorite dog personalities out there on the World Wide Webs. So we'll catch up with Sam, 14 past the second hour. And then to close out the show tonight, 35 past the second hour, the executive producer of the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, and Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer, John Solberg, will close out the show. Special announcement on that as we draw near to the show. So that's how it's laying out. Malcolm Reed and Kevin Grothe, first hour, Sam the cooking guy, John Solberg in the second hour. Don't forget, you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapper Snaps, and the LinkedIns, all with the handle at BBQ Central Show. And of course, for the first time in 2025, we say good evening to all of you watching through our video streaming platform networks. You can go to Facebook.com/BBQ Central Show. You can go to Twitter.com/BBQ Central Show, or you can watch the show on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. And we do have a new YouTube poll question of the week, and we're asking everybody this, including all guests. Do you ask for permission from the father before you propose marriage to your girlfriend? And currently 64% of you are saying yes, you do. I got to be honest, given my age demographic of audience, I thought that number would be trending into the mid to low 80s, if not low 90s, maybe even closer to 100%. But currently, we're closer to 50-50 than I thought we were going to be. It just dropped, and now the yeses are taking 62%. I don't remember if you recall what the poll question of the last live show, which was December 17th. You would remember the likes of a Jack Arnold leading in that first hour. The question was, will you buy Meathead's new book when it's released this year in 2025? It was a tight race. 51% of you decided yes, you will buy Meathead's book when it is released in 2025, which means 49% of you said no, which is way closer to 50-50 than I had even accounted for. So wondering what that's all about. But we'll start here this evening. Gang, welcome to 2025, a New Year's of shows. First time with my mouth, let's say a new year of shows, new year of entertainment and education, fun and frivolity. As I mentioned in the podcast recording last week, I will be doing my best to make the 2025 year of shows the best ever shows you have ever listened to and or watched. And I have no time to waste because 2025 already rapidly coming to a close. So let's get on it directly. I hope your holiday season was great, was safe. You spent time with the people you wanted to spend it with. You got everything you wanted, and you gave what you wanted to give to those that you love and those that deserved it. And I want to thank friend of the show and multiple-time Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Fame nominee, Andy Husband, and all the folks over at the Smoke Shop for sending me a great care package that came out yesterday. 99% of it made it safely. It did appear that a bottle of their spicy barbecue sauce fell victim to transport through the courtesies of USPS. The blessing and the curse of using a glass bottle for sauce, of course, which I actually prefer. If I was going to be doing a sauce, I would prefer using a glass bottle, but I know why people use plastic. For this instance specifically, risk of breakage, much less when you're using plastic than if you're using glass. But nonetheless, I got a fresh pack of the Smoke Shop barbecue peanuts, which best should be enjoyed by November 3rd of this year, so I have to get cracking on those. Also, a bottle of Gold Medal barbecue sauce, which looks like it's a mustard-based attempt. And, of course, the Sweet Victory barbecue sauce over at the smoke shop, which I can only anticipate is a competition-style sauce or perhaps some take on what they've used as Team IQ, winning multiple times and being down to Jack Daniels 10 or 11 times in a row, whatever that take was. But then there was also this. This is is it called an atomizer, whatever, for like cologne spray. They've developed, I don't know if they're selling it or if this is just a gimmick product or something along these lines, but they are marketing a barbecue cologne. Well over 10 years ago, the guys at Pork Barrel Barbecue came out with Q Cologne, which was supposed to be in a play of fun, but I think real. It was one of the most horrific colognes I've ever smelled. I can't believe that they went to market with anything like that. It was shocking. It was offensive. It was the antithesis of what a good, true barbecue man would smell like. I don't think you can capture barbecue in a cologne. However, the smoke shop has decided to throw caution to the wind and come out with whatever their version is. I don't know if this was just a tester for me. I smelled it. It was also offensive right away to the olfactory senses. I took out a piece of paper towel and sprayed it on there. Maybe this was just one-time spray. I don't want to do it here for visual reference, but it did stain the paper towel, not white. It didn't show up like if you were to spray it with water in a clear sense. It had a staining mark on the paper towel. So it didn't encourage me to then want to spray it around my hot points to make sure I was emanating the smoke shop's latest rendition of a barbecue cologne, whatever it is. But even smelling it on the paper towel was doing it no favors. So while 99% of the stuff made it, I would say 95% of the stuff is probably worth purchasing. I'm not going to tell you to not buy the cologne. I would say if you're adventurous, if you like outside-the-box smells that are borderline offensive to every human with a nose and perhaps most animals, you might want to give it a try and then let me know. Or just buy it as a secret and spray it up right before you go out with your significant other and see if you're still their significant other by the end of the night. I mean, why not? That would be a great way to test it. So thanks again to Andy Husbands and everybody out there at the smoke shop for the care package. Much appreciated. Look forward to getting a handful of those nuts in my mouth, too. In a vacuum, that sounds really weird. Malcolm Reed is ready to go for the first time in 2025, getting ready to talk some Bison, amongst other things. Before we do that, talk about the Schwank Grill leading us in 2025. Still here. It is infrared burner technology at its finest. More on that in a second. You can get it up to 1,500 degrees. You're not taking long periods of time when you're using the Schwank Grill. In fact, you're cutting time by considerable amounts. You can get a half-inch steak done 3 or 4 minutes, depending on what your internal temperature preference is like. So no more wasting your life cooking the proteins that you want. The infrared burner technology, the same that you will find in some of the world's leading steakhouses, like Morton's and Cut 432. Not infrared burner technology, but the same Schwank burner technology that you find in the one in your backyard, the same one in the commercial steakhouse. And it's not just for steak, as you're seeing here in the video. It can cook tuna, chicken, shish kebabs, chicken wings, all the delicate stuff. You name it, the Schwank can handle it and do it really well. So I would offer you this request. If you see what you like on the video, if you hear or you like what you're hearing as I'm talking about, head on over to the Schwank Grill's website, SCHWANK, schwankgrills.com, and you can search the 2 fuel options that they have, natural gas, liquid propane. I like liquid propane myself, but you do you. Highly portable, too, as we are getting through the end of the NFL season, if you can believe that. Schwankgrills.com. That's schwankgrills.com. The infrared burner grill you got to have in your backyard this grilling season, but why wait? Let's do it now. We're back with Malcom Reed right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard. Makers of the Fireboard 2, Fireboard Pro, Fireboard Spark, Fireboard Beacon, and the all-new wireless Fireboard Pulse, which is now available for retail sale. You don't have to line up and wait for it anymore or get the invite. Just go buy it. When you use the Fireboard app, you have total access to all devices anywhere in the whole wide world with a signal. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. The good folks over at Fireboard. My next guest tonight can be found helming the competition team Killer Hogs when he does that, or you can watch him on YouTube over at the How to Barbecue Right YouTube channel, where 1.8 million of you are currently subscribing. It's our pal Malcom Reed. Malcom, Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year, Greg. What's happening?
We are doing it again. It's 2025. We started this many, many years ago, just as the internet was starting to take off. Malcom and I were having barbecue conversations, and here we are so many years later. YouTube poll question of the week. Let's get that out of the way before we talk about the hunt of 2024. Does a man have to ask let me make sure I have this phrased right because I was trying to do this right the first time. Do you ask for permission from the father before you propose marriage to your girlfriend? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. 67% of the YouTube voting public saying yes, you do. I thought that was a little light myself, but I believe we're also dealing with generational differences and things like this, so maybe the newer generation isn't into that. But I also agree with you, Malcom. That's something you should absolutely do if you're a real man. A gift I never thought I would get was a industrial-size cheese machine. And I have to say, it is very impressive. How often are you guys using that?
Not often enough. I mean, you could use it daily if you wanted to. No, it's usually special events, Greg. I think we broke it out one time during the holidays. Is it only Amazon that you can go get like the accommodating 6-pound can of cheese, or do you have places locally? Yeah, local grocery stores carry it. Sam's Club, Costco, Walmart, Kroger.
Oh, all right.
You can get in the South. Now I don't know about in Cleveland, but in the South, we got the processed cheese by the gallon.
All right. Well, we're going to make sure we hit up. I got a Walmart right down the street from me, so I'll make sure because we want to press it right into use at the next house party, make sure all the provisions are ready and the associated ton of nacho cheese chips that we're going to need to make sure that we're packing down 6 pounds of can or 6 pounds of cheese in that can. You were off last month. And in your place, you line up your wife, Rochelle Reed, to fill in for you. And to me, one of the best interviews of 2024, and no recency bias on my part, just one that I had waited literally years for. Did you get a chance to listen to it? And if so, what did you think?
Yes, and I thought you could tell she was very nervous at the front. She opened up a little bit, but I think you did it with the questions, opening her up. She didn't know how it was going to go. And so you kind of eased her into it a little bit. But I thought it was great. I thought she did a good job. And, I think that's the very first podcast
she's ever done solo other than our How to Barbecue Right podcast. So you got to feel special on that.
Oh, I mean, it was such an honor. And look, I get it. It's a lot easier to always think about what an interview is going to be like if you also know you're never going to be interviewed. And then once it's happening to you, I mean, this isn't the radio. We're not in major market LA or New York City, Chicago, what have you. But still, once you're on something, and it is a live scenario, it's not recorded either. So what you say is what you say, and you're out there. I can certainly understand where it would be a little nerve-wracking, especially if she doesn't have the reps of being just a singular guest on other shows. So the fact that she did it was great, and In Your Place was doubly great. So certainly appreciative. Glad you liked it as well. When you were on in November, you let it out of the bag that you were going to be going on a bison hunt in North Dakota.
That's right.
So now we're here in January. We need to get the full recap of how this whole thing goes down. High level, because I don't know. Is there a difference between buffalo and bison? Are those interchangeable terms?
They are in North America, especially. There's really not a American buffalo. It's the American bison. People just call them buffalo. I guess because they're a little similar to like the African Cape buffalo or water buffalo a little bit. Those are the true buffalo, but this is actually the animal's a bison. So I don't know where the buffalo terminology came from, but that's what I've always known it as.
How does this trip actually come together? What's the genesis?
So I've got some buddies here locally that we were actually cooking in a barbecue contest this past summer, and they had a trip up and they had someone back out, and I just happened to be there, and they was like, "Hey, you want to go on this bison hunt with us? We're going in December," and this was like July. And I was like, yeah, sign me up. I've always wanted to go bison hunting, which I've never even thought about going bison hunting, but it sounded like fun. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go, put me down. And sure enough, it comes time to go. And, we had to pay our deposits or whatever. And they give you a place to stay. So all we really had to do was get to Bismarck, North Dakota. They picked us up at the airport, drove us out to the ranch, and we went from there.
What's the trip like up to Bismarck? Many connections. I can't imagine that's a great place to get into.
We flew through Minneapolis, go Vikings. Then we went to Bismarck from Minneapolis. So it wasn't bad at all. It was like right at 3-hour flight to Minneapolis, and then like a hour and 45-minute flight to Bismarck from there.
Any reason?
Wasn't bad. It wasn't hard at all.
Any reason you had been to North Dakota before?
No. I've been to South Dakota before. Been to South Dakota, but never North Dakota. And it was pretty desolate. I mean, there wasn't a lot there. It was really, really rural, a lot of rolling hills, a lot of cold, a lot of wind. People were super nice. I mean, so one day we got there, Greg, and it was unseasonably warm. Like it had got up to almost 40 degrees.
Oh.
And so everybody was out. We went to town one day and everybody was out in town. They were happy. They were doing their Christmas shopping. But the weather turned pretty quick there. The next day, a front came through and the wind picked up and it's blowing like 35, 40 miles an hour and it's freezing rain. And when we get up one morning, it's like 12 degrees and everything's a sheet of ice. And that part was pretty miserable. But the hunt went really well. I didn't know what to expect. I've never hunted bison and never talked to anybody that hunted one.
Let's not jump ahead. I'm leading you down the primrose path. I want to make sure we're lining this up right in case anybody's looking at this trip. So what gear are you required to take with you as you make the journey up?
Well, you have to take a firearm. Of course, you need warm clothes and boots that you're comfortable walking in because this is, we had to do quite a bit of walking. But really there's no special gear other than something to stay warm in because it's so cold there.
Do you feel like you're properly geared up? Because, you're a pretty well-known and well-revered hunter down in Hernando.
Yeah, we were. I mean, considering that it was warmer than when we first got there, I had everything that I needed. The last day, if I would have had to stay much longer, I would have tapped out. It was so cold, and you just couldn't stop that wind. But that was the very last day we were going to the airport, so I didn't have any extreme weather conditions, so I had plenty of clothes.
So it was you and how many other hunters?
There's 5 of us.
5 total. All right.
And then we had a camera guy, and then we had another guy that just tagged along just because he wanted to see it.
Does someone go first as you start to hunt? Like before you actually get out to whatever you're going to do, is there a process that's put in place?
Yeah, so they kind of go over that the first night we're there. We're having dinner, and they're kind of telling us how things are going to go. These animals are so big. Even like a couple of the guys had just a regular bison tag, which wasn't for necessarily a trophy animal, but it was more of a juvenile bull. It's still a bull, and then they're still weighed 2,000 pounds, but they called them juveniles. They're huge. And then we had 3 tags for what they considered adults, trophy animals. And those were well over 3,000 pounds. And we had 3 of those. So they kind of split it up. 3 of the guys went one day, and 2 of us went the last day hunting.
Are you assigned a bison tracking expert in order to find them in the wild?
So that's pretty much how it goes. Like where we were, it's really big hills. They call it rolling plains, but they're like mini mountains to me. But you basically skirt around the high points in vehicles or side, UTVs, whatever they're using that day, and you're trying to isolate animals away from the herd because you can't shoot them when they're herded up. They say the other bison males will go crazy and will completely demolish the animal that's wounded when they see blood. They're a wild animal. They say even though it's like close to a domestic cow behavior wise, you can never get them to act the mannerisms of a cow. They're just too wild. And so these animals pretty much just go wherever they want to out on this ranch that's like 20,000 acres. There's no fences to hold. A fence won't stop them. Like they can pretty much go through whatever they want to if they decide to. But what we did was we skirted around these hills, and you spot one that you think is going to be a target animal, and you try to figure out a way to get to it as quietly and as quickly as possible without being detected. Because if they see you, they're going to leave. They're going to take off, and you're just going to be chasing them all day.
How quickly are you in the midst of bison to take down?
I would say there's a couple hours before. You see some, but there's, the terrain, you might not be able to get to it because it might be, a mile away. And then you try to figure out how to get to them, and you spend time trying to maneuver around, go where you think they're going, because they're just kind of feeding along. They're not paying too much attention to you because there's nothing else out there. But if they spot you or they hear you or something, that's when they're going to go the different direction. So we got on them pretty quick. I think both days it may have took a couple hours to spot the one that we wanted to target, and then it'd take you anywhere from one of them might have been the 20-minute hunt after we found the animal that we wanted, and then the one I hunted, we chased it for miles, and it seemed like it just you never know how it's going to go.
Do they recommend a caliber of firearm that's most efficient in murdering bison?
You need a large caliber gun. They didn't really tell us, which one you could use. They told us that the most dangerous was a bow and arrow. So like if you'd have wanted to shoot one with archery equipment, you could. But the guide actually said he's only done it 3 times, and it was very sketchy all 3 times. It was like you have to get so close to them, and these animals, they're unpredictable. I mean, they can run 40 miles an hour. They can jump a 7-foot fence. So you can imagine it's pretty tough. But so to put it mildly, I took a 300 Win Mag, which is a pretty large rifle. And I shot the animal that I shot. It took 4 times to bring it down. And it just took the shots. It was almost like a bee sting to it.
Do you think that the bison is thinking, like after that first shot, hey, maybe this guy is going to stop shooting me and maybe I'll just go on with my day? Or do you think the bison knows that his time left on this earth is becoming increasingly limited by literal seconds?
It seemed like they didn't even realize it. Like to me, I mean, because the other animals, when I'm hunted and we've harvested animals, most of them typically hear a gunshot, they get hit by something, they take off. Unless you hit them like in the spine or somewhere that's going to be an instant, they can't move. But most of the time they take off. These animals, it was just like something poked it. It wasn't even, it sounded like a drum hitting it, like a bass drum, but they just absorbed it and would just stand there and keep eating. That was pretty amazing to see an animal that size. And I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't agree with hunting and stuff like that, but it was really cool.
At any point, and God, I hope not, but at any point, did you think you were going to have to go hands-on in order to finish off this majestic beast in the field?
I did get down to the last round I had with me because we had walked, I don't know, a couple miles from the truck where I just grabbed a handful of shells thinking, you're going to do one shot and done. And I think I had 6 with me and I shot 5 times. And so if I would, that's what I told the guy. I said, I guess I'm going to have to hit him with the gun if this doesn't work. Because
you take out the knife and like bleed him out, right?
Jump on his back and bleed him out. Yeah,
that's right.
Man, I tell you what got me the most, Greg, was I was so impressed that Native Americans were able to take these animals with sticks and stones and spears and stuff like that. For them to be able to harvest and to utilize that animal was amazing, because I saw what it takes from high-powered weapons to bring them down, and it's just they're probably it's got to be the toughest four-legged animal in North America. They would give a grizzly bear a run for his money.
Oh, well, no doubt about it. All right, so let's talk turkey here. Where does it go after the field, and how does it get there?
So they call a guy that comes out there with a tractor, and it usually takes a while because he's driving a tractor, way out in the plains, and he picks these animals up by the hind legs, and they're huge. I mean, I got pictures of all this stuff, and it's unfathomable how big they are. Well, what they take it back to the road, and usually they have a big truck with like a flatbed that comes out to the road, and that's what they load them on, and they take them back to the ranch, and they hang them up on the tractor and just go to skinning it. And they get ladders out, because I'm talking grown man, 6 foot tall, is still on a 8 foot 8 foot step ladder to try to skin this animal. That's how big they are.
Before it's processed in any form or fashion, do you get a validated dead weight on it?
I lost you there, Greg. I'm sorry. Kind of modulated.
Did you get a validated dead weight on it before any processing happened?
They didn't have a way to, no, because it was like snowing where we were trying to clean these animals. And so they didn't have a way to weigh it like then. But the guy said that the 3 we shot were definitely over 3,000. He estimated mine to be about 3,400 pounds.
Wow.
A live weight, I don't know what it would have been. I'm imagining it's still well over 2 after it was quartered up.
How much meat is being shipped back to you before you get it processed?
So we brought it all back. We had another guy go up with a trailer, and we insulated it, and we filled it up with ice, and that's how we brought all the meat back. We brought back well over, I want to say it was almost 6,000 pounds of cut up, of quartered up bison. Wow. And then we found a guy in Mississippi that came up. He's a mobile butcher. He was a USDA certified mobile butcher. He came to the farm, and we went at my buddy's farm where we had all the meat hanging. And in 2 days, they had all of that meat processed. Now, a lot of it was ground, because they said these older animals, they told us, before we ever shot them, that you're going to be better off grinding these older animals. Now, the younger ones, they're fine to cut all the primals out of, but these other animals, they're 10 plus years old. They're tough. They've been out there through all these winters. So you can imagine that meat's a little tougher. So he said it eats better ground than it does in steaks. But I did get some steaks out of mine, but the bulk of it is all ground.
Have you made burgers and stews and tacos and all that stuff so far?
I've cooked some of the ground meat already, yes, and it's fantastic. It's way better than venison. The meat I had, the bison that I had, it's like, it's so fresh. It's very lean. It doesn't have a lot of fat, but the flavor is really, really good. Cooks up great.
If I blindfolded you and put a spoonful of ground chuck in one spoon and a spoonful of bison, instantly you can tell the difference, or will it take a couple chews?
Side by side, you could tell. It's just a different flavor. It's not like wild or gamey or anything. It's just it's richer to me. It just has a unique, it has its own taste. It's different than like store-bought ground beef.
Has it inspired you to take someone up on an offer of safari where you might be able to go take down an elephant if the opportunity presents itself?
There's a lot of animals in North America that I haven't hunted before I would go, but I do have a buddy that guides in Texas, and he goes over to Africa every year and goes to South Africa and hunts. And there's the place he goes has 47 different animals that you can hunt on this one ranch or whatever. And he's shot a bunch of them, and he says it's amazing. So that's kind of giving me a twist to want to go over and shoot some of these, just to say I did it, because I've never. I mean, when else are you going to get the chance to go to Africa? That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you go, because I have zero interest in going, and then I'll just live through you like we just did this North Dakota trip. This is Malcom Reed. You can, of course, visit him over on YouTube, which is howtobarbecueright.com is the website, and 1.8 million of you are subscribed to him as of a little bit earlier today. Malcom, always appreciate the time, appreciate the in-depth recap for those that might be lining up for a similar hunt. Now they know what to expect, and we will talk to you in February.
Hey, can't wait, Greg. Go Vikings.
Go Vikings. That's right. No Browns, that's for sure. Pathetic football team. I said it before, I'll say it again. Like, Malcolm's Vikings are having the season I thought the Browns were going to be having this year. I mean, we can agree on that. Meanwhile, the Browns are a dumpster fire. Pathetic. In any event, Kevin Grothe is in the green room. We'll get to him here in just 1 second. Talk a little Memphis in May with him. If you're serious about your grilling game, then you need to check out the latest offerings from Pits and Spits. Let's kick things off with the Pits and Spits griddle. The gas griddle combines the power of a traditional grill with the versatility of a flat-top griddle. Engineered with precision, crafted from top-quality materials, the versatile griddle is set to revolutionize your outdoor cooking experience. Constructed of 304 marine-grade stainless steel and fully welded design, the griddle comes with 4 burners to accurately manage your heat zones and gets blistering hot with 80,000 BTUs, made with the Pits and Spits signature quality you've come to know and love. Now, for those of you building your ultimate outdoor kitchen, you have to check out the built-in pellet grill designed by the discerning grill masters at Pits and Spits and fabricators, of course. They demand top-tier performance. This grill, the centerpiece for any serious outdoor kitchen. From low and slow smoking to high-heat searing, the grill can handle it all. Briskets, ribs, pizzas, veggies, you name it. This grill can cook it. With Pits and Spits' legendary craftsmanship, you can be confident it's built to last. With stainless steel construction and a design that's as reliable as it is versatile. So, if you're ready to take the cooking game to the next level, head on over to pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. That's pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central and use promo code BBQ Central for a free spice pack with orders over $500. We are back to talk Memphis in May, because it'll be here before you know it. Stick around, be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back, and we thank Malcom Reed for joining us last segment. Don't forget, you can check him out at his website, howtobbqright.com. If you're a fan of competition barbecue, either from a team perspective or a spectator perspective, then you know about the event that takes place in Memphis every year in May. The past few years have been some of change, some of turmoil, but one thing has remained constant, which is the event always taking place and teams considering it to be one of the majors they want to win before the end of their competition careers. Here to talk about what the 2025 event will look like and some other items, as well as the Executive Vice President of Memphis in May, first-timer Kevin Grothe joins me here on the show. Kevin, great to have you here this evening. Before we get going with all the Memphis in May talk, we have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests. Do you ask for permission from the father before you propose marriage to the girlfriend. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's a Southern tradition, but actually probably a family tradition that most parents would teach their sons to do.
62% of the YouTube voting public in agreement with you and me, Kevin. I also believe that's something you should do. Before we talk about what Memphis in May is going to look like this year, maybe a little background on you since it's your first time on the show, and also how you get involved with Memphis in May in the first place.
Sure. I've actually been at Memphis in May for 19 years, so no stranger to barbecue. Been in Memphis, I think around 25 years. Met a good North Mississippi girl, so I don't think I'm leaving anytime soon. I love being a part of Memphis in May. I'll remember when I first arrived to Memphis. It was May 1st of 1996. 2 weeks later, I went to my very first World Championship barbecue cooking contest. I was hooked ever since, and could always remember calling all of my friends back home from Ohio and Iowa, which is where I grew up before coming down to Memphis, and telling them what an incredible event it was. And when 19 years ago, I had the opportunity to actually hang my shingle here, I thought, do I give up a day or two of fun for a career that could just be fascinating 365 days? Easy answer, and here I am.
What is the specific year we're celebrating at Memphis in May this year?
This will be the 47th year that we will be producing the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest. So it has been considered the most prestigious contest for several years. There was actually a poll done by USA Today a few years back, which it proclaimed us as such. And I think when you talk to the serious pit masters, they always talk about this as being one of the must as far as trying to stake your claim as being the best.
Memphis in May for years, decades, perhaps I should say, was more than just a barbecue contest. When I got into this, it was only about the contest, but as I started to do my own research, realized it was much more. And then when you read into the name, it's Memphis in May International Festival, and it's way more than just barbecue. So if you give us a little background on what that used to look like.
Yeah, so Memphis in May was founded with a way to try to help re-energize and bring the city together back in 1977. It has, just like any business or organization that's been around for nearly 5 decades, it's evolved over time. We've produced music festivals, the Beale Street Music Festival, for 45 plus years. We've done a Sunset Symphony. 10 years ago, we started a brand new event called the Great American River Run. We helped the city of Memphis celebrate its bicentennial in 2019. So we have always been the civic event, the premier celebration of all things Memphis. Our mission is centered around promoting Memphis culture. So music and barbecue obviously hit that bill, and the idea of the Great American River Run is to also kind of celebrate our heritage of being a bluff city and right on the banks of the mighty Mississippi.
Within the 19 years that you've been at Memphis in May, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen during your time?
Well, from a barbecue standpoint, I think I don't know if you remember I think it was an Oldsmobile commercial where they used to say, "This isn't your father's Oldsmobile." And I would say that that's very true of our barbecue contest. While it still has the term contest in it, we have realized over time that the affection, the sport of barbecue, while you may not want to compete on a circuit, so to speak, you still want to be known as having the best barbecue in your neighborhood, on your block, right? There's a lot of pride with that. And so it has helped grow the consumer side of the event over the last few years, and we have implemented several programs, and we have a few more twists that we'll be turning into here in 2025. So we're continuously trying to grow the brand and just barbecue in general. We believe barbecue is an inclusive activity, and we should take the lead in trying to make sure that it is inclusive for family, friends, and all involved.
What's the 2025 version of Memphis in May going to look like this year?
Yeah, the competition will still be the best of the best. You'll see 5-time champions like Myron Mixon and Chris Lilly with Big Bob Gibson's compete. Last year's winner is a 3-time champion, both Brad and Brooke from the Shed. They'll be back. And, it's almost like a who's who of a competition type of list, whether it be Heath Riles, and the list goes on and on of the greats who have been a part of the event and still continue to be a part of it from a competition standpoint. So that won't change. We don't want to interfere with the integrity of the event, the prestige of walking the stage and proclaiming that you're a Memphis in May champion. The world champion has been able to take that crown, so to speak, and really evolve it into incredible careers. When you see and watch television shows where they have television personalities involved, many of them got their start right there at Memphis in May, and they will tell you by winning it not only launched their careers, but from a financial standpoint, the money that you receive as winning the championship pales in comparison to what the prestige will generate for you from a financial standpoint.
What can teams expect from a payout perspective this year?
Yeah, our prize purse is now going to be in excess of $175,000. So nothing to sneeze at. The world champion will walk away with at least around $35,000 approximately. So some very good paydays. I think there are 80 plus opportunities to take home some cash with all the different categories that we have.
What can a spectator expect in a 2025 version?
Yeah, I think it is so much different. The old adage used to be that if you did not know somebody on a team, it wasn't worth going. And that is so not true anymore. We've implemented several programs, one being Barbecue Alley, which we have worked with our good friends with the Big Green Egg. We have brought in pitmasters to where for a small fee, you go around and try 5 different elements of barbecue and sides. So at one station, you might have pork ribs and baked beans. At another, you might have brisket and greens. And another station, you might have smoked turkey and mac and cheese, and the list goes on and on and on. So that has really become a very popular element, Greg, to the point where we started, I think, with 3 or 4 sessions. We're going to expand it. We're going to have 9 different sessions for that element alone. And then one of the other things that's been new in the last couple of years is we have partnered with Home Depot. They've been tremendous. And what we have done is collectively created the Home Depot Outdoor Kitchen. And it's a collaboration with us, them, their vendors, and the people who are ambassadors or culinary exports of those vendors. For the price of admission, and there is no additional charge to this, just for a price of a ticket, you could literally come at noon on a given day and stay till 7 p.m. and see demonstration after demonstration after demonstration from some of the most well-known people, whether it's a Tuffy Stone, a Mo Kassan, the list goes on and on again. And not only do you get to hear and see them in action, when it's done, you get to come up and meet them and try exactly the items that they were showing how to prepare. I mean, and of course, with Home Depot having the outdoor area, they have all the nice patio furniture for you to also to enjoy while you're there attending the demonstration. So those are just 2 examples of where consumers can be a part of it. And, everybody likes to be an active participant. So maybe about 10 years ago, we partnered with Kingsford and created the Kingsford Tour of Champions, where you become a judge and visit 3 different teams that have placed at Memphis in May over the years. We give you a quick judging class and a scorecard, and you go visit those 3 teams, and you determine who the winner of the Kingsford Tour of Champions will be. So lots of fun, different ways for somebody who doesn't know a team to be a part of it, learn, taste, which is always important, and just be having a great time at an event with family and friends.
Do you see Liberty Park as the permanent home for this event going forward, or are there potential other options that could be in the mix?
I would like somebody to define permanent location, because whoever knows how that might play out. Let's just say at least for the short term, we view that as our home, and we're very happy. It has a lot of amenities that help keep, I think, our event vibrant and at the stature and size that people have known and loved over the years. And the great part about it, Greg, is they want us there. They see us as the anchor event tenant outside of football games. So they think we're very good to work with. We think they're very good to work with. They want to work with us to try to figure out how do we even make it a better event site. But from a competition standpoint, the teams will tell you it is amazingly easy from a load in, setup, and load out standpoint. And I think as we continue to produce the event there, we even saw last year where we figured a few things out to where we create consumer alleys, so to speak, to where the patrons who are coming, it's like going up and down a midway. And so as we continue to call that our home and having a great tenant or landlord, I guess you would say, in that, which is the city of Memphis and the folks who manage the stadium and Liberty Park, we're extremely happy and can't wait to stay there in years to come.
Last year, we saw the emergence of a contest called Smoke Slam, and they were obviously in direct competition with Memphis in May, will be again this year. And they were making a ton of announcements leading up to it. It has tailed tremendously going into year 2. Do you have a personal take on that event?
We're all about barbecue being inclusive. So from that standpoint, we love anything that helps promote barbecue and the sport of barbecue. Now, having said that, it did catch us a little off guard that it was going to go at the same time period as our event. And I can tell you, in talking with a lot of teams and sponsors and other folks who play an integral part from a programming standpoint, their preference, and they've shared that with the other event, that it not occur at the same time because they could get more involved in that event. Probably would even be better for the city as a whole. But from a Memphis in May perspective, we can't control that. All we could do is control what we do, make it the very best that we can be. And, that's exactly how we're going to approach each and every event that we produce, and kind of just let that take care of itself over time.
Last year, we had an embedded correspondence segment. We were talking about this whole thing going back and forth, and I had said it was kind of echoed with the embedded correspondents themselves. I said, something feels weird. They went through this entire renovation, which they put under the guise of Memphis May asked for all of these renovations. We've built the park specific to them. They hold the contest. Everything gets ripped up. You're billed $758 trillion for damages, which is now locked up in courts, I would imagine, still. And all of a sudden, it seems like they don't want you. You get a different place to go, and then bang, here's another event that's just happening to backfill. I find it hard to believe you have an event of that size that all of a sudden just like falls out of the sky, that something is happening in the background. Was their communication to you guys one of support, or did you feel like all along something was snowballing in the background?
Well, I think from a music standpoint, if we take a step back, Greg, the producers of the music event that now is the first weekend of May had been doing a music event in the fall in Memphis. Matter of fact, our then president and CEO met with the organizers because they were curious to try to get a lay of the land of the whole music festival industry. They came to our offices, and we had conversations with them, trying to be helpful and giving them insight onto a music festival because they had never produced one before. So when we made the announcement that we were going to pause the Beale Street Music Festival in 2024, we weren't totally shocked that another music festival would come and fill that void. But I'd be remiss if I said we were shocked that that announcement came within 24 hours of our announcement of going away. Now, as it related to the barbecue contest, nobody had ever shared a word with us about the possibility of that, whether it be, and I don't know if anybody owed that to us or not. It's not for me to claim, but we found out about it the same way that folks like you and everybody else found out about it. And so it's kind of my analogy of it is like this, Greg, that if I was a country music promoter and I felt that I could produce an event better than CMA Fest, which is a mammoth, probably considered the country music event, right? Kind of similar to how some would kind of portray what the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest is. If I was going to do that, I would maybe still think of it in Nashville just because of its heritage of country music, but I surely wouldn't do it the same time as CMA Fest. If I thought I could do it bigger and better, I would go prove and do that and make it bigger and better at a different time period.
Do you think there would ever be a time where the two events end up merging in some way?
You never say never to anything. But right now that doesn't seem very likely, only because I know that there have been folks who have asked them if they would consider moving dates, and it's a pretty simple, no, these are our dates. So they seem to be pretty well set on that. But that doesn't mean down the road that things don't change. And, whoever knows what will happen 5 and 10 years from now.
We're months.
I will say, though, I know one thing, though, Greg. Memphis in May isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And people love this organization. We have very loyal patrons, the citizens. They've expressed how much they appreciate Memphis in May. I think it's been eye-opening across the board. And I tell you what, our volunteers, we couldn't, and for 47 years, could never have done this without them. They have stood up proud to be supporters of Memphis in May. And I tell you, there was last year, there was just some special energy, and whether it was from the teams who were there to compete to the volunteers, you could just sense a sense of pride of being involved with Memphis in May. And that made us as organizers feel really good because of the appreciation that was shown across all different specters.
We're months away at this point, Kevin, but give me your early pick for Grand Champ of Memphis in May this year.
If I did that, I already would have bet on my Vikings because you put me behind legendary Malcom, and if I would have known that, I would have negotiated a different time slot than to have to follow him. But I'm like him in that I'm a huge Viking fan. I would have put my money on that a long time ago to write it out because I never expected a 14-3 season.
Yeah.
So to predict the winner is next to impossible. There's so many factors that take place into determining the winner. That's why we've been doing it 47 years. The most that any one team has won it is 5. And then there's 2 of those, as I mentioned earlier, 1 at 3, and then you have a few at 2, and then you have a bunch of single winners. So if it was easy to do over and over and over again, you would see repetitiveness. And that is, if you look over the winners list of 46 years, this will be the 47th, you will see such a variety of winners over those 4+ decades.
Kevin Grothe is the executive vice president at Memphis in May. The website, of course, is memphisinmay.org. Kevin, really appreciate you coming on, answering all the questions, giving us the insight, the background, and I wouldn't mind having you back here before the whole thing kicks off in May.
We would love to come back. Sorry it's taken us so long, but we're here. We'd love to be a part of your program. Like I said, just don't put me behind Malcom the next time.
Copy that. Appreciate the time, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Right.
Thank you.
Take care. He did just fine behind Malcom. No worries about that at all. Certainly professional and a great debut appearance there from the executive vice president at Memphis in May. The website again, memphisinmay.org. You can follow him on Instagrams if you would care to, at Memphis in May, all one word. So there you go. A little background. Ohio guy. I'm Ohio. Living in Memphis now, giving us what it's going to look like this year in 2025. Both from a team, money winning, and then spectator perspective, all great to see. And here, and then of course talking a little bit about the new competition, Smoke Slam, and how that whole thing has been perceived, at least from Kevin's angle. We're not talking for anybody else. So appreciate him joining in. We will be right back to wrap the first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Kevin Grothe for joining us last segment, Executive Vice President, Memphis May. Next time, we might have the Chief Executive Officer, the new CEO. Was it James Holt leaving not so long ago? Mac, I believe, is the first name of the new CEO. MemphisMay.org, the website .org, at Memphis and May on Instagram if you want to give them a follow. We're a little over, so let's reset the clock and head to the second hour. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.